Tonight, you don't need to do anything more. You don't need to understand everything that's about to be shared. You don't need to remember it. You don't need to try to relax in the right way. Just let these words pass by like background sound in a quiet room. Maybe you're lying down after a long day. Maybe you're sitting somewhere in a rare pause between things. Or maybe you turned this on without really knowing why. Many people believe that inner peace is something you have to build, something you have to study more, fix within yourself. Control your thoughts so they become better, lighter, more correct. But sometimes that very effort is what makes us more tired. There are small, ordinary moments, almost unnoticed, when we stop interfering, and peace no longer needs to be created. It simply appears like water when it's no longer being stirred. Tonight isn't about becoming a better version of yourself. It isn't about doing things the right way. It isn't about fixing what's still unfinished. If there's something in you that's still holding tight, you don't need to push it away. Just stop touching it for a little while. The stories tonight aren't here to teach you how to be peaceful. They're just here to sit beside you in very ordinary moments where nothing needs to be done, and because of that, everything begins to soften. If you fall asleep at any point, that's perfectly okay. And if you're still listening, I'm here with you, just for a moment. Where are you listening from? Some evenings begin very quietly, but inside nothing feels calm. Olivia lies on her side in bed, the bedside lamp turned down to its lowest setting, just bright enough so the room isn't fully dark, but not so bright that it asks her to stay awake. The light casts a thin yellow glow on the wall, where small shadows shift gently with her slow movements. Resting on her chest is a slim notebook already open, a pen laid across the edge of the page as if it would only take the smallest motion to begin another list. Olivia knows this feeling well. The feeling of a day that never quite ends. Even though her body has laid itself down, her mind is still standing somewhere among things, to do things, to fix things, to improve. She works as a UX writer, used to seeing everything as a problem that can be refined. A sentence can be rewritten more clearly. A flow can feel smoother if adjusted in the right place. Over time, that habit didn't stay at work. It quietly spread into the way she looks at herself. Tonight is no different. The page in front of her is filled with bullet points. Nothing major, just very small things, and an email that could have been phrased more thoughtfully, a moment in a conversation earlier where she felt she spoke too quickly. An idea at work she thinks she should have arrived at sooner. Each line carries no strong emotion on its own, but together they form a thin, steady pressure, like a soft ringing in the ears that never quite stops. Olivia picks up the pen and adds another line, then another. Not because she needs to, but because she's used to it. She's used to fixing things before allowing herself to rest. As if lying still without first reviewing every imperfection would be a kind of laziness she hasn't earned the right to. She pauses mid-sentence, the pen hovering above the paper. There's a very small moment without any clear reason when she suddenly notices how tired she is. Not dramatically exhausted, but quietly worn down by the constant effort of intervening, of touching everything, of trying to make things better. The lamp gives off a faint sound, almost inaudible, just a soft, steady hum. In the quiet room, that sound becomes more noticeable. Olivia sets the pen down. She doesn't add another line. She looks at the page not to judge it, just to see it. The words sit there asking nothing of her. They are simply ink on paper. An old habit stirs in her, urging her to rewrite one line more cleanly. But this time she doesn't follow it. Not because she's resisting, but because it suddenly doesn't feel necessary. She lightly crosses out a single line. Just one. Then she closes the notebook slowly, as if careful not to disturb the air in the room. Closing the notebook doesn't bring a sense of victory. There's no feeling of having done the right thing. It's just a very ordinary movement. And yet, as the cover comes shut, a small space opens up. Not the kind of space that feels like something is missing, but the kind that appears when you stop adding more. Olivia places the notebook on the bedside table. She doesn't reach for her phone. She doesn't check the time. She doesn't tell herself just 5 more minutes. She simply lies there watching the soft light reflect across the ceiling. Her breathing slows down, not because she's trying to control it, but because nothing is pushing it to be faster. A thought passes through her mind. I should do this more often. And then almost immediately, it fades. Not pushed away, just not held. It arrives, and it leaves like a light breeze passing through the room. She realizes that the most exhausting part of her day doesn't come from her work, but from always trying to become a better version of herself even when no one is asking. She's been bringing that fixing mindset into bed with her like carrying a bag she never sets down. Tonight, for the first time in a long while, she doesn't ask herself, what do I need to do to sleep better? She doesn't tell herself to relax the right way. She simply lies there, letting everything stay exactly where it is. The lamp is still on. The notebook is still on the table. The unfinished parts of the day haven't disappeared. But none of them need to be touched anymore, at least not in this moment. A very thin feeling spreads across her chest. Not quite peace, not exactly relief. Just a soft easing of the urge to interfere. Like when you stop stirring a glass of water and the surface quietly finds its own shape again. Olivia closes her eyes, not to force herself to sleep, but because there is no longer a reason to keep them open. Her breath moves in and out without needing attention. Thoughts may still appear, but they're no longer invited to stay. If someone were to ask what she's doing right now, she probably wouldn't know how to answer. She isn't practicing anything. She isn't letting go through effort. She simply stopped interfering. And in that not doing something very calm, very human, begins to show itself. Not because it was created, but because it's no longer being covered up. The lamp continues its quiet hum. The room remains the same. But somewhere deep inside, a slower rhythm is finding its way. Olivia doesn't need to follow it. She only needs not to get in its way. And if tonight you too are carrying an invisible notebook like this one, filled with lines to fix, to improve, to make better, then maybe in this moment you don't need to cross them all out. Maybe it's enough to close the notebook. Not forever. Just for tonight. There is nothing to fix right now. And because of that, everything is allowed to rest. Marcus stands at the edge of the backyard pool, his rubber sandals set off to one side, bare feet resting on tiles that still hold a trace of the day's coolness. Night has fully settled in, but the pool lights are on a soft blue glow sinking into the water, making everything feel slower than usual. Insects have begun their scattered chorus in the bushes beyond the fence sounds without a clear source. Only the quiet certainty that they're there. Marcus has worked in pool maintenance for nearly 20 years. He's used to water, used to reading the surface to see what's off, used to skimming leaves, vacuuming debris, adjusting chemical balance, bringing things back to how they're supposed to be. In his work, water is rarely left alone. It's always being checked, treated, intervened with at just the right time. Tonight he still has his familiar skimmer net with him. It leans against the pool's edge, the plastic handle worn smooth, the mesh sagging slightly after too many summers. Marcus bends down, lowers the net into the water, and draws it gently across the surface. A few small leaves rise up, spinning slowly before catching in the mesh. He lifts the net, letting the water drain out, drop by drop, falling back into the pool, forming small circles that spread outward and quietly disappear. He repeats the motion a few more times, not because the pool is especially dirty, but because his body is used to doing something when standing in front of water. When things feel tangled inside, the hands often look for something to hold on to. Marcus has had a long day, though there's nothing specific to point to. No big conflict, no bad news. Just a series of small, repetitive tasks and a thin restlessness that refuses to fade. The feeling that there's still something that needs to be dealt with, even if he can't quite name it. He sets the skimmer down on the tile and leans it against the pool's edge. Then he straightens up, arms hanging loosely by his sides. In that moment, the water is still lightly rippling from his earlier movements. The pool light bends and shimmers, unable to settle into any single shape long enough to see clearly. Marcus looks down at the pool, waiting without quite realizing it. Not waiting for anything specific, just waiting for that familiar sense of the water returning to normal. But the water isn't in a hurry. It doesn't care that he's standing there. The small waves continue to meet and overlap, then gradually lose their strength. A familiar urge rises in him. Stir it a little more, speed things up. Use the net to gently move the water to help it settle evenly. He's done it hundreds of times on the job. But tonight, he doesn't move. He just stands there watching. At first, doing nothing feels slightly uncomfortable, as if he's neglecting an obvious task. But as he continues to stand still, something begins to shift, not in the water, but in his breathing. What had been shallow and quick starts to lengthen. Not because he's trying to breathe deeply, but because there's no longer a reason to keep it tight. The surface of the water slowly calms. The small circles dissolve into one another and fade away. The blue light becomes steadier, clearer. Marcus notices that there's no single moment he can point to and say, "This is when the water became clear." It doesn't happen suddenly. It just happens. He thinks of the many times in his life when he tried to make things clearer by touching them too much. Conversations he rushed to fix before they had time to settle. Emotions he tried to explain away instead of letting them pass through. Evenings when he couldn't sit still, always feeling like he was missing something important. Marcus bends down and rests his hand lightly on the pool's edge. The water feels cool. The sensation is simple, carrying no message. He doesn't draw a lesson from it. He just feels it. Another leaf drifts down from somewhere above and lands on the surface, sending out a new ripple. For a moment, the light shimmers again. Marcus sees it clearly, but he doesn't rush. He doesn't reach for the net. He lets the leaf float, turning gently before coming to rest in a corner of the pool. The water isn't worse because of the leaf. It's just different for a moment. Marcus stays there a while longer, not keeping track of time, not checking his phone, not telling himself he's doing something good for himself. He simply stands, letting the water do what water does. A strange feeling begins to emerge in him. Not complete relaxation, but a soft easing of the urge to intervene. Like a hand that's been clenched for a long time, suddenly realizing it can open without losing anything. He understands then that the water doesn't need his help to become clear. It only needs not to be stirred again. The thought doesn't turn into a big conclusion. It doesn't become a life rule. It passes through him as a gentle observation, then settles along with the surface of the pool. Marcus picks up the skimmer net, not to use it, but to carry it inside. He leans it against the wall in the garage, where it will wait until tomorrow. When he looks back at the pool one last time, the water is much smoother now. The light lies still, no longer trembling. He doesn't feel like he's accomplished anything, but he also doesn't feel unfinished. It's just an evening that's been left alone. As Marcus steps into the house, the sliding door closes behind him with a small, rounded sound. The pool remains out there, holding its own rhythm. No one needs to watch over it. And if there are moments at night when your mind feels like water that's just been stirred with circles of thought overlapping again and again, maybe you don't need to find a way to make it clearer. Maybe it's enough to stop stirring. Not everything needs to be handled right away. Some things, when left untouched, will quietly find their own shape again. Water knows how to clear itself, and maybe you do too. Jenna lies on her back on the narrow dorm bed. The off-white ceiling just inches above her, close enough that she could touch it if she reached up. The alarm clock on the table beside her bed glows a dim blue, its numbers sharp in the dark, 1:47. The room is so quiet that the air conditioner somewhere in the building sounds like a distant breath, steady and unhurried. She turned off the alarm earlier than usual. Not because tomorrow is a day off, but because she already knows she won't sleep any longer, no matter how many alarms she sets. As a second-year medical student, Jenna is used to short nights, used to a body that's tired, while the mind refuses to slow down. On her desk, textbooks are stacked into low, neat piles, arranged with intention. Everything is in its proper place. Everything except sleep. She turns her face toward the bare wall. A thin strip of light from the hallway slips through the crack under the door, resting still on the floor. Jenna closes her eyes, then opens them, closes them again. Each time, the same familiar sentence appears in her mind. Go to sleep. You have to get up early tomorrow. The thought doesn't help, but it shows up anyway, like a reflex. She shifts her position, pulling the blanket up a little, then lowering it again. She tries taking a deep breath, counting the rhythm like she's been told before. But the more she tries to do it right, the tighter her body feels. As if sleep is just another task on a list that has to be completed properly. Jenna is used to effort. For years, effort has been what carried her forward. Studying longer, preparing better, making sure she doesn't fall behind. But lying here in the dark, effort becomes a quiet pressure pressing lightly, but constantly against her chest. She opens her eyes and stares into the darkness. A thought drifts in. If I don't sleep tomorrow, will be awful. That thought pulls another one in behind it, then another, forming a chain of small scenarios, not dramatic, just enough to keep her awake. Jenna can see it happening, but she doesn't know how to stop it. She reaches over and turns the alarm clock off completely. The blue light disappears and the room grows slightly darker. Not because she doesn't need the alarm anymore, but because she doesn't want to watch time pass like that. She doesn't want each unslept minute to turn into proof that she's failing. Jenna turns fully toward the wall, her back to the room. In this position, she no longer has to face the night itself. There's only the feel of the mattress beneath her, the warmth of the blanket, and the distant sound of the air conditioner. She isn't trying to sleep, she tells herself. And yet somewhere inside there's still a part of her trying not to try. There's a very small moment when Jenna realizes that what exhausts her most isn't the lack of sleep, but the fear of not sleeping. The fear that if she doesn't do everything right, her body will betray her. The fear that if she loosens her grip, everything will fall apart. That realization doesn't come with a clear conclusion. It simply appears and stays long enough to be noticed. Jenna rests her hand on her stomach, not to track her breathing, just to have a point of contact. Her hand is warm. Her breath is still a little fast, but it isn't corrected. She doesn't count. She doesn't adjust. She lets it be exactly as it is. There's an urge to do one more thing to help herself sleep. But at the same time, there's another kind of tiredness, deeper than the rest, whispering enough. Not enough in the sense of having done things right, but enough in the sense of not needing to do more. She thinks about the shifts coming up, the exams, the unnamed expectations. They're still there. They haven't disappeared. But in this moment, they aren't asking anything of her. They're simply standing at a distance that feels manageable. The air conditioner changes its rhythm slightly. Jenna notices she hasn't shifted her position in a while. Her body is finding its own balance without instructions. Her breath lengthens a little, then a little more. Not because she's trying to breathe deeply, but because nothing is pushing it to hurry. Another thought appears lighter this time. Maybe I don't need to try to sleep. The thought doesn't come with a plan. It simply opens a small possibility that sleep might arrive when it isn't being called for over and over. Jenna doesn't know how long she lies there. Time is no longer being broken into pieces. There are no numbers to hold on to. Just the even darkness and the feeling of a body that's being allowed to accomplish nothing at all. In that state, thoughts don't disappear completely. They still come, but they no longer line up waiting to be handled. They pass through like faint shadows, not solid enough to pull her awake. Maybe Jenna isn't fully asleep yet. Or maybe she's drifted into a very light sleep, shallow and undefined. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the effort has stopped. And when the effort stops, a small space opens just enough for the body to do what it knows how to do on its own. If there are nights when you find that the harder you try to sleep, the more awake you become, it may not be because you're doing something wrong. It may simply be because sleep doesn't come from effort. Some things in the body work best when they aren't being watched, like breathing, like the heartbeat, like sleep, and maybe by trying just a little less, the rest can find its way on its own. Noah sits at his desk in the home office, the desk lamp casting a pool of light across the wooden surface. On the wall in front of him is a spread of colorful sticky notes lined up neatly, each one holding a small task, an unfinished idea, or something meant to be remembered later. The wall clock ticks steadily, not fast, not slow, as if it doesn't care whether he's still sitting there or not. Noah works as a product manager. His job is to see problems before they become real problems, to adjust early, to intervene in the right place, to change one small detail so the whole system runs more smoothly. Over the years, he's learned to trust his ability to spot what's off and fix it. And most of the time, that skill genuinely works. But on late evenings like this, when work has technically stopped and his mind hasn't that habit, no longer brings a sense of control, it leaves behind a thin, persistent tension, like a cord pulled just tight enough not to snap, but never loose enough to rest. Noah looks at the wall of sticky notes. Some have been there for a week. Some were added today. Each one represents something unfinished. None of them are especially important on their own. But taken together, they create a familiar pressure, not sharp, just constant. He stands and walks closer to the wall. His feet make a soft sound against the wooden floor. He raises his hand and touches a yellow note in the upper corner. It's a small task, something that could have been finished earlier in the day. He's thought about it several times, but hasn't done it yet. His hand pauses there, caught between peeling it off and leaving it alone. A familiar reflex urges him to act. Take it down. Replace it with a clearer note. Or at least rearrange things so they look more organized. He's done this many times before as a way to feel like he's moving forward, even if only slightly. But tonight Noah doesn't rush. He stands there and looks at the note. Just looks. No judging, no planning, no deciding what comes next. At first, not doing anything feels uncomfortable, like he's failing at something basic. But as he continues to stand there without adjusting or fixing, a very subtle shift happens. Not on the wall, but in the way he's seeing it. He notices that none of these notes are asking to be handled right now. They aren't making noise. They aren't vibrating. They won't fall down if he doesn't touch them. They're simply there, quiet, holding their shape. Noah gently peels the yellow note off the wall, not to replace it with another one, not to rewrite it more clearly. He just removes it, folds it loosely, and sets it down on the desk. A small empty space appears on the wall, imperfect and uneven, but real. He doesn't rush to fill that space. He doesn't feel the need to. The wall is still standing. The system hasn't collapsed. In fact, nothing significant has changed at all. The clock keeps ticking. Noah returns to his chair and sits down. He doesn't open his laptop. He doesn't pull up another document. He just sits looking at the small gap on the wall, then down at the folded note resting on the desk. A thought appears. I should have finished this already. The thought comes easily, like an old habit. But this time Noah doesn't follow it. He also doesn't push it away. He simply notices that it's there. And then, like many thoughts, it passes. He begins to see something he rarely allows himself to notice. Seeing something clearly doesn't always mean it needs to be fixed. Some things only need to be seen. Not forever. Just for this moment. He looks back at the wall. The grid of notes now has a small opening. The space isn't optimized, but it gives him a strange feeling, as if there's a little more room to breathe. Noah leans back in his chair, feeling the weight of his body being supported. His shoulders drop slightly, not because he's trying to relax, but because there's no longer a reason to keep holding them up. His breath moves in and out more evenly. Maybe tomorrow he'll come back and reorganize everything, continue doing his work. But tonight he doesn't need to. Tonight isn't for optimizing, it's just for seeing. The clock continues its steady rhythm. There's no sign that time is moving faster or slower. Noah doesn't feel like he's solved anything, but he also no longer feels pushed to solve something. In the quiet room, a very soft clarity spreads. Not the clarity of a plan, but the clarity of seeing things exactly as they are, without adding or subtracting anything. And if there are moments at night when you notice yourself constantly adjusting, fixing, optimizing, even when no one is asking, then maybe in this moment, you don't need to do anything more. Maybe it's enough to simply look. Not everything needs to be intervened with to become okay. Sometimes not adjusting is what allows quiet to appear. And in that quiet, nothing more needs to be added. Renee stops at a familiar intersection, the kind where the red light always lasts a little longer than you expect. Not long in an unreasonable way, just long enough to make you aware that you're in a hurry. Night has settled in fully. The road isn't crowded like it is at rush hour, but cars still pass through in small clusters, separate streams crossing under the streetlights. She works as a delivery driver. On nights like this, she drives more by an internal map than the one on her phone. Familiar restaurants, apartment buildings with gates that never open on the first try. Houses where customers always add, "Please don't ring the bell, there's a baby." Inside the car, there's a faint mix of smells, paper plastic food that's been sitting for a while. The scent of a day stretched long. Her hands rest on the steering wheel in the right position, as if she's still actively driving, even though the car is completely still. The engine idles steadily. A small vibration travels up through the seat, thin and constant, like a quiet current. Renee looks up at the red light, then down at the clock on the dashboard. She doesn't want to look at the time, but she does anyway. The habit feels like a string inside her, pulling her attention toward how many minutes left. She has 2 deliveries remaining. If she's quick, the tips might be better. If she's late, the customer might be annoyed. If the customer's annoyed, she'll have to apologize. If she apologizes, she'll replay it later and blame herself. The chain is so familiar, it starts running before anything has actually happened. Renee tightens her grip on the steering wheel. Not exactly stress, more like holding on firmly, as if gripping hard enough might make the light turn green sooner. And when she notices herself doing it, there's no urge to laugh. It isn't funny. It's just tiring. Ahead of her, another car waits at the light. Its brake lights glow bright red like 2 small eyes staring back at her. Renee blinks a few times, realizing her eyelids feel heavier than she thought. In the rearview mirror, the road behind is mostly empty. Just one car in the distance, its headlights sweeping briefly across the pavement before sliding past. There are small sounds inside the car. The soft rustle of a plastic bag brushing the passenger seat with each vibration of the engine. The low exhale of the fan. Renee has heard these sounds all evening, but only in moments like this when she stopped. Do they become this clear? When she's driving, her mind is busy. When she stops, everything suddenly has space to be heard. The light stays red. Renee lets out a breath a little stronger than usual, like a signal to herself, "I'm waiting." And immediately, another part of her pushes back. Waiting for what? Waiting doesn't help anything. The words aren't spoken aloud, but they sit clearly in her chest, a quiet irritation without a name. She glances to the right. On the sidewalk, there's a small sign with a neon light flickering slowly. Not bright enough to be harsh. A shop is closed. Its metal gate pulled down, a forgotten plastic chair sitting out front. No one is there. No drama. Nothing important happening. And somehow, because of that, the scene carries a strange sense of ordinariness, as if the world is continuing just fine, without Renee pushing it forward. The light is still red. Renee tightens her grip again just slightly and then stops. It isn't a logical decision. She simply notices that her hands are holding too tightly onto something that doesn't need to be held at all. She loosens her fingers slowly, like opening a clamp that's been closed for too long. Her fingertips still touch the steering wheel, but they're no longer gripping it. In that moment, her body responds before her thoughts do. Her shoulders drop a little. Her neck softens. Her breath moves deeper, not because she's trying to breathe deeply, but because it's no longer being pulled up into her chest. She feels warmth in the palms of her hands. The sensation is so real, it surprises her, as if she hasn't truly felt her own hands all evening. She lets her hands rest open on the steering wheel, the way you'd rest them on a table, not the way you hold something you need to control. Nothing dangerous is happening. The car is still. The light is red, and yet a small, confused question rises in her mind. What am I doing right now? The question comes from the part of her that likes control, the part that always needs a clear purpose. Renee doesn't answer it. She doesn't try to turn this moment into an exercise. She simply lets it be. The engine keeps humming. The fan keeps breathing. The plastic bag keeps rustling softly. The world remains paused at this intersection, like a film on hold, but nothing feels broken. Renee looks back up at the red light, then into the open space beyond the windshield. It occurs to her that she's lived for a long time, in a state of having to be on time, to the point where even an ordinary red light makes her body tighten like she's being tested. No one is actually testing her. No one is scoring how long she waits. And yet, inside her, there's an invisible voice that keeps whispering that if she isn't fast enough, she must be doing something wrong. She exhales again this time, not in protest, but in acknowledgement. Okay. I'm waiting, that's all. Nothing more. The light is still red, but inside the car, something begins to settle. Not a deep sense of peace, just a slight release of pressure, like setting down a bag you didn't realize you were carrying. Renee still has 2 deliveries left. There are still things to do. But right here, at an ordinary intersection under a red light that hasn't done anything wrong, she suddenly feels that she doesn't need to interfere with everything. She doesn't need to grip time as if it's something that can be forced to move faster. The light remains red, and Renee is still here. Her hands a little more open now, open enough to let the night breathe. The light turns green without making a sound. No chime, no signal, nothing special. The red glow ahead simply fades, disappears, and is replaced by a deeper green in the night. Renee doesn't press the gas right away. Not because she's distracted and not because she's trying to delay. There's just a very small pause, as if her body needs a moment to register that nothing is being rushed. The car in front of her begins to move. The brake lights go dark, opening up the empty road ahead. Renee places her hands back on the steering wheel this time, without gripping. She presses the accelerator gently, just enough for the car to roll forward smoothly. The engine changes its rhythm, stretching out, then settling again as she merges into the lane. There's no sense of victory, no feeling of finally, just movement continuing the way it always does, whether she's tense or not. She passes through the intersection, glancing briefly down the street to the right, then the left. Everything looks exactly the same as it did when she was stopped. Only now it slides backward past the windows. The closed shop is still closed. The plastic chair is still there. The neon sign keeps blinking slowly, as if it never cared whether the light changed at all. Renee drives a little farther, then eases off the gas as she approaches the next stretch of road. There's no red light here, just a darker section with fewer street lamps where her headlights carve out a narrow path ahead. She notices that her body is still holding on to some of the softness from before. Her shoulders aren't raised, her jaw isn't tight, her breath isn't trapped high in her chest. A thought appears, I still have a few deliveries to finish. The thought is practical. It doesn't carry the edge it used to. It's just information. Renee doesn't push it away. She doesn't do anything with it either. It arrives and then rests there without pulling a whole chain of worry in behind it. It occurs to her that for years, she's been driving as if she were racing something invisible. Not other cars, but a vague sense that if she wasn't fast enough, she'd fall behind something. Tonight, on this short stretch of road, after the red light, she sees clearly that the car keeps moving even when she doesn't push it. Renee signals and turns onto a smaller street. Trees lean over the road, their shadows cutting across the pavement, weaving between the street lights. She slows down, not because she has to, but because there's no need to go faster. No horns. No one rushing her from behind. The night feels wider here, spacious enough for a single car to pass through without disturbing much of anything. She thinks about the moment earlier when she loosened her hands on the steering wheel. It wasn't a big decision. There was no intention to practice anything. Just a reflexive stopping right when it was needed. What surprises her most is that nothing bad came of it. Time didn't punish her. The light didn't stay red longer. Her work didn't fall apart. A different kind of lightness is settling in now. Not the lightness of being finished, but the lightness of no longer interfering. Renee pulls up in front of a low apartment building where her next delivery waits. She sets the parking brake and turns off the engine. The silence inside the car arrives quickly, as if the engine itself is tired and ready to rest. She stays seated for a few seconds, not opening the door right away. Not out of laziness, just because nothing is pushing her to move. In that pause, she hears the first hint of rain. Not a downpour, just a few early drops touching the windshield, forming faint circles before sliding downward. The sound is so soft that if she weren't still, she might miss it. She looks out through the glass, watching the streetlights stretch and blur through the water. She doesn't think much about the rain, but her body responds as if recognizing a familiar signal to slow down. Rain arrives without being invited. It falls in its own way. It doesn't speed up when pushed. It doesn't slow down when waited on. Renee opens the car door and steps out, pulling her jacket a little closer. Not because she's cold, but because of the light dampness on her skin. As she walks toward the building entrance, the rain grows steadier, the sound of drops tapping the awning becoming clearer. She doesn't hurry. She walks at her own pace without forcing the old speed. When she returns to the car after completing the delivery, the rain has spread more evenly across the road. Everything reflects more softly now. The light has lost its sharp edges. The night feels wider, not because there's more space, but because nothing is trying to hold it tight. Renee sits back in the driver's seat and closes the door. Rain taps against the roof in a steady rhythm, no music needed. She rests her hands on the steering wheel, not to grip it, just to touch it. The feeling is familiar, but different. Maybe she'll rush again on other days. Maybe future red lights will still irritate her. There's no promise that everything will change. But in this moment between rain and streetlight, something simple becomes clear. Not everything needs to be pushed for life to keep moving. Some motions work best when they aren't forced. Some rhythms don't need to be controlled. Renee starts the engine again and turns on the wipers. Raindrops sweep aside, then fall back once more, a quiet loop that doesn't ask for explanation. The car moves forward slow and steady. Somewhere ahead, there may be another red light. And maybe when it comes, she'll open her hands just a little more. Samuel sits on the old wooden chair on the front porch, his back resting lightly against it. Both feet placed side by side on the floorboards, darkened by years of weather. Night has fully arrived, but he doesn't turn on any extra lights. The glow from inside the house spills out just enough to trace the outline of the porch, enough so he doesn't feel cut off from the night. The rain falls steadily, not heavy, not rushed. Drops touch the roof of the porch and make a round, gentle sound as if someone were tapping softly on wood, pausing then beginning again. Water drips from the edge of the roof, one drop at a time, into a planter below, where the soil has already darkened, ready to receive it. Samuel has been retired for a few years now. Before that, he worked as a mail carrier, walking the same familiar streets day after day, in rain and in sun. The job didn't demand big decisions, but it did require steadiness. Each day began at the same hour. Each set of steps was climbed again and again. Each door had its own sound when the mail slipped through the slot. Now, without a fixed schedule, Samuel notices that his body still holds the old rhythm. He still wakes up early, still feels a vague urge to do something with the morning. But at night, especially on rainy nights like this, that rhythm softens as if a part of him is finally being allowed to rest. He places his hands on his thighs, palms facing upward, not as part of any ritual, just the natural position of hands that no longer need to hold anything. His fingers curve slightly, neither straight nor clenched. The rain keeps falling. The sound doesn't change. It doesn't need to be adjusted. Samuel looks out into the darkness beyond the porch. There's nothing special to see. The street in front of the house is empty. The street light at the corner is blurred by the rain, its glow stretching into a pale yellow streak across the wet pavement. He isn't searching for anything in the scene. He simply lets his eyes rest there, open, unfocused. On some evenings, he notices himself trying to understand how he feels, trying to name it. Is it sadness? Is it emptiness? Is it calm? But tonight he doesn't do that. Not because he's decided not to analyze, but because the rain has made it unnecessary. The rain isn't trying to fall the right way. It doesn't ask whether it should come down faster or slow itself. It doesn't compare one drop to another. It simply falls according to its conditions, according to gravity, according to the air and the temperature of the night. Samuel realizes that all day long he hasn't fixed anything. He hasn't repaired a broken object. He hasn't corrected a story in his mind. He hasn't adjusted himself. Not because everything is perfect, but because nothing is asking to be fixed right now. A light breeze passes through, carrying the smell of wet earth and leaves. Samuel breathes in, not deeper than usual, just enough for the scent to enter and leave. His chest rises and falls, not matching the rain, not resisting it either. Two rhythms moving side by side, with no need to become one. He thinks about the years he spent trying to do his role well. Not by standing out, but by showing up consistently. There were days of heavy rain-soaked clothes, aching legs. There were days of sharp, sun-dry throat. And still he walked his route. Not because he loved every day of the job, but because it was the rhythm of the life he had chosen. Now, with no one waiting for mail from his hands each morning, Samuel finds himself learning a different rhythm. The rhythm of not needing to be anywhere. The rhythm of not being called. The rhythm of being allowed to sit still, letting the rain do the world's work for a while. The rain grows slightly heavier, then softens again. There's no clear signal of change, only a subtle shift. Samuel doesn't track it. He doesn't wonder how long it will last. The night doesn't ask for that. Within the steady sound, something deep begins to open. Not the feeling of having accepted something, and not the feeling of having figured something out. Just a quiet agreement that everything is unfolding the way it needs to. Samuel closes his eyes, not to sleep, but because his eyes have done enough. The darkness behind his eyelids isn't much different from the darkness in front of him. The rain is still there. It doesn't need to be seen. And in this moment, there is nothing that needs to be held and nothing that needs to be released. There is only the rain knowing very clearly how to fall. The rain doesn't stop when Samuel closes his eyes. It doesn't fall harder either. The sound keeps its own rhythm steady and unhurried, as if it doesn't need to know whether anyone is listening or not. Drops touch the awning, slide down, then fall again, each one following its own path, not waiting for the one before it, not chasing the one after. Samuel feels the chair fully supporting his back. His weight spreads out, no longer held in one tight place. A familiar sensation returns, one he hasn't noticed in years. The feeling of not needing to hold himself in readiness. His shoulders don't need to stay lifted. His neck doesn't need to stay tight. His hands don't need to grip anything. He doesn't think of this as resting. Rest still sounds like something you do. This moment feels more like permission, so light, it doesn't even need a name. The rain continues. Water drips from the awning into a planter below the sound, slightly deeper there like a soft reply. Samuel notices that many sounds are happening at once, yet none of them compete. They exist side by side, each sound quietly doing its own work. His breathing slows a little, not because he's making it slow, but because there's nothing inside pushing it to be faster. His chest rises, then falls. His belly softens. Small spaces appear between breaths. Not spaces of emptiness, but spaces of enough. Samuel thinks of afternoons long ago when sudden rain soaked him while he was out delivering mail. Back then, rain was something to get through, something that slowed him down, something that meant he had to walk faster later to make up for it. But now the rain isn't an obstacle. It's just rain. And he's just someone sitting and listening. Something gentle happens when he doesn't try to understand what this feeling is. When he doesn't try to turn it into a story. When he doesn't tell himself this is peace or this is acceptance. Those words can come later if they need to. For now, there is only presence. Samuel opens his eyes slightly, then lets them close again. Not because he feels clearly sleepy, but because his eyes don't need to work anymore. The light from inside the house still spills onto the porch unchanged. The shadow of the porch post lies still on the floor, not trembling. The rain doesn't distort it. There's a brief moment when Samuel realizes how accustomed he's been all his life to adjusting. Adjusting schedules, adjusting pace, adjusting himself to fit the situation. Not because anyone forced him to, but because that's how things kept moving. But tonight there's no situation asking him to fit into it. No schedule waiting to be aligned, so he doesn't adjust anymore. The rain doesn't need his permission to fall. It doesn't need him to let go. It falls because that's the most natural thing it knows how to do. Samuel sits there, not copying the rain, not learning from it, just being with it. Maybe tonight he'll fall asleep right there in the chair. Or maybe he'll go inside later, lie down in bed. Neither choice is better than the other. The night doesn't keep score. The rain softens slightly, then returns to its steady rhythm. No one instructs it. There's no control center. Everything finds its own way. Samuel feels his eyelids grow heavier. Not pulled down, just no longer needing to be held up. His breath moves in and out as if it doesn't belong only to him but to the air around him. If something inside him is being set down, it's being set down very quietly. There's no marked moment, no clear line between before and after. Just a natural process, the way rain knows when to fall, when to thin out. Somewhere in this quiet, a very simple truth is present. Not everything needs to be controlled in order to unfold properly. Some movements have known their path for a very long time. Rain knows how to fall. Night knows how to deepen. And you in this moment don't need to do anything more to be allowed to rest. If sleep comes at some point, let it come. If it doesn't, that's okay too. The night is still here wide enough to hold everything. Tonight we've moved through very small moments. not to fix ourselves, and not to understand anything new. Just to notice that when we stop interfering, there's a very natural rhythm that has been here all along. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to let go in the right way. You only need to stop touching things for a little while. If you're still awake right now, there's nothing you need to do. If your eyes are growing heavy, let them close. If thoughts are still drifting through, that's okay too. They don't need to be handled before sleep. Everything can be left for tomorrow. Tonight doesn't ask you to be okay. Being allowed to rest is enough. If sleep arrives at some point, let it come naturally without announcing itself, without needing permission. And if these stories helped you set things down even a little, you're welcome to subscribe to Bedtime Stories Buddhism on future nights when you need a quiet place. You'll know you can return here. Thank you for sharing this quiet space with me. Whether you fall asleep right now or rest for a while longer before you do, both are perfectly okay. The night is still here, and you don't need to carry anything else with you.